Hi everyone, my name is Kate De Jong. I am very honoured to be here in the studio with Tam today on the 50/50 podcast. I've been in touch with Tam for some time now and we've only recently connected, but there's real resonance there. I think we are very much on a similar wavelength, so really looking forward to this conversation. I am a business coach. I help people start and grow businesses. I like to help them grow their business with ease through learning from all the difficult mistakes that I made and all the money I burned on things that don't work. I like to help people who are starting out on their own to find the easiest path to growing a business and really establishing solid roots and to hit sustainable profit as quickly as possible, because we all know that's how you survive in business. I love to help people like me who didn't fit in the corporate box to find their way outside the system, as I call it, and to thrive as an entrepreneur or a business owner. I spent the first 15 years of my career as a process engineer. I worked in the USA, in the Netherlands, and across Australia and different countries as a process engineer in large-scale water and wastewater infrastructure. While it was a really fulfilling career, it actually ended up making me very sick. I wasn't living my truth. I wasn't in my zone of genius. And to cut a long story short, my knees hit the floor in my mid-30s and I hit extreme burnout and had to really look at my life and what I was doing. And it was at that point where I realised I wasn't living my truth and I needed to pivot. So that's when I started out on my career of being a free agent, and I requalified, certified as a coach, and I've been helping people start and grow businesses since 2014 and loving it. As I say to Tam, we've just all got to find the zone where work feels easy, but it's impactful and valuable to other people. And I look forward to our conversation today. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me at katedejong.com. Lots of free resources on there for you, and please reach out. I'm on LinkedIn, Kate De Jong. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much.
Welcome back to 50/50. I'm delighted to be here with Kate De Jong. Now, I know you as Dr. Kate De Jong. I've seen you referred to as Katie as well. Which name should I call you?
Kate is good. So my official name is Katie.
Okay.
On my passport, it's Katie. School, I was all Katie, but I think we're just a naturally lazy folk, aren't we, in Australia? Everyone just calls me Kate. And
how can we shorten it? We'll do it. That's right. I used to have a boyfriend years ago and his name was Sven, and his mum was an American, and she named him Sven because she thought Australians won't be able to shorten that. So he got called Nevs at high school. We're not stoppable, right? So we're going to turn everything into a...
As long as it's one syllable.
Right? Short. Or O, Ando.
Yeah.
If it's Anderson, Ando.
I thought you were going to say he was getting called Sveno or something like that.
Yeah, that could have happened as well, but no, they went more creative. Nevs.
That's very cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. I was saying to you before we started recording, I always think, how do I feel about who's coming in today? And I get all sorts of nice and different feelings, but I've never had this one before. I actually felt elated. A friend of mine who ran the teaching school we worked at in Chile, Bruce, a beautiful American fellow, he used to feel real joy and he'd say, I am elated. And every time he said, I am elated, I go, now I'm elated too.
It's a beautiful word.
Isn't it beautiful? It's such an expressive feeling. And I think where it came from was when I was thinking about you, I was thinking about your book, I was thinking about your LinkedIn posts, I was thinking about the ways we've connected, which of course to now have been brief, right? I thought, the beauty of Kate, this is going to be awesome, particularly around that authenticity piece, right? So before we started today, I was telling Danielle how you and I met, and it's funny for the theme of authenticity, right? So we're at the Western Suburbs Business Association lunch, beautiful lunch at Matilda Bay. And I had been looking for a coach for my client's husband who didn't work at the business connected to me. I thought, who have I heard of? And you had been someone that I had heard of. So that's very good, isn't it?
Yeah.
That I heard of you just in the ether.
Yes.
And actually for a number of years I'd heard of you, and I can't even tell you where I'd heard of you.
Okay.
Beautiful, right?
Yeah.
So I thought, right. And then I looked at the guest list and I thought, there's Kate. So I come up like I do, like a little missile. You're having a lovely conversation with some lady who I know did not appreciate me interrupting. The look she gave me, I was like, it's like when Grayson looks at me like that. And I said, hello, I am I'm Tam and I've got this client and her husband would like a coach, and I thought of you. And look, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but the only thing she wanted was that the person wasn't a wanker. And you graciously looked at me and said, I don't think I'm a wanker. And I said, perfect, I'll get you in touch.
Which was great, yeah. And we're still intending to work together, but stuff's been happening in their business as far as I can tell, and the timing hasn't been right. But I ended up working with your husband instead.
That's so wonderful, right? So that's exactly right. So I go, right, set up. So Kate set up to deal with my client's husband. Wonderful. Then Andy and I have been in this long process. Andy is a much more dedicated and committed fellow, particularly to the admin, financial, structural side of the business. I personally have a Danielle, and what I do is I just talk here and have fun and then go, thanks, Danielle, thanks, Grayson. And then I get emails saying, we've done all this stuff. And I go, that looks great to me. And life's a joy. Anyway, Andy has a different approach where he'd like me to somehow be involved in the business. And so what we're trying to do is figure out how to get this small business, which has grown very happily, has grown to a point of very busy, and go, what systems can be put in place, what can be take some load off him, what could potentially be outsourced. And you've been working with him on this very big task, which I'm very grateful to both of you. I express my gratitude to him a lot. And I'm also very grateful to you because his perfectionism and detail focus means timelines can get long.
Yeah, and he just needs accountability to stay on it and keep small steps in the right direction. And yeah, we're doing it. He's made amazing progress.
Yeah, and that's why I try and be noisy, because sometimes I'm in my own world and won't recognise, hang on, this fellow. But it's been so obvious. He's worked so hard on that, and he's been doing most of our training. So he's actually at the point now, I was saying to Danielle earlier, we refer to Bert and Ernie, and when he gets needs some time on his own, he becomes Bert. And yesterday, the day before, he started birding. And I said, he said, what do we got on Saturday? I said, I'm going to the podcast. I can take Sam. And he goes, good. I said, but we do have your mum's birthday Saturday night. And he's like, oh, he's hoping for the whole day night. Oh, he needs a couple of days.
Well, so he's got half a day off. That's
half. Better than nothing.
Better than nothing.
Yeah, and we'll find him another couple.
Yeah.
He's good. He's like an artist, so he does great work, great training, looks after a lot, very committed, and then I have to look after him by going, thank you, now go and I send him to hotels for the night.
Wow.
Yeah. He lets me do
You're a
that.
good wife, but because you see the signs and you recognise that. A lot of partners don't recognise that in each other.
Oh, the only person who suffers if I don't help him out is me. Happy wife, happy life. Yeah. It's whatever he says, happy spouse, happy house. He always wants to get in on the game, that guy.
Be a bit different.
Right? But yeah, if he gets to the point of where he is at the moment, and I go, hey, why don't you go Saturday morning, come back Sunday night, go and stay somewhere? I had someone say to me, well, how do you trust him to go to a hotel? And I was like, what? And they go, he could be playing away or whatever people's. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, he'll
that
do.
Says more about you than about.
I was going to say, I didn't think of it, but no. I'm not going to not have him do that.
No.
Actually, you know how you were saying about understanding people, and it is a selfish thing I do generously because he's a nightmare when he gets cranky.
Aren't we all?
Oh, aren't we all? But Danielle said she was snippy all this week. I couldn't even tell. So I think she needs to up her game on the cranky, or at least communicate it better.
She's not doing it well enough.
She's not
it's
offensive
not
in the
enough.
least. What was I going to say? Talking about sending him away. Oh, yeah, years and years ago, a couple that will remain nameless, the fellow was a real adventurer and real lust for life, loved the outdoors, different pursuits, adrenaline junkie, right? And they were together and had small children, and I was talking to the wife one day, and I said, oh, such and such hasn't done any of his blah, blah, blah. She goes, no, he's not doing that. He's got responsibilities. And I said, oh yeah, I get that. But it's the great joy of his life. And anyway, they're not together anymore. And
not surprising.
It was really one of those moments of just a little bit of latitude would be pretty clever here, you know?
Yeah, that's right.
Isn't it funny when we get stubborn, like, nope, no, he's not doing that. I'm like, oh. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's healthy long term.
Nah.
We all need a bit of latitude.
Don't we? I did. Andy was, I went to Crowded House last night and it was so beautiful.
Oh, Kings Park. Oh, lovely.
Yeah, they're amazing. They are still full, fresh, new as the day they were born musicians. They're not rolling out old stuff to get the dollars. They are
experimenting and making new stuff.
They did Crowded House karaoke. Like Neil would play a song, this is very late in the piece. He'd play a chord and then say to his musicians, okay, start singing something. Then they sang 3 or 4 songs. He got us to sing at the end. I'll play with you. It was so beautiful. You know when you don't want to go and then
you just
get there and
so
go,
happy that you did.
So glad I went. So I'll play you this. Oh, hang on, my voice is a bit loud. It's going to ruin it a bit. So that's my voice. So the whole crowd, we all had our phones, with the torch.
Oh.
And he did that thing knowing that we knew his music.
Yeah.
He had us sing a lot, so we were all really happy.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
What a good night.
It was really beautiful, really good. So let's talk about you.
Oh, I was quite enjoying not talking about it.
Well, this is the beauty of this thing, right? Because we can talk about whatever the hell we want.
I know. It's great.
Right?
Yeah.
So where shall we start? So I have got your book sitting right there. I can start by saying I ordered that. I got it recently. I started reading it. Then I read it again. Then I read it again. Then I started flicking through. And I said to you as you came in the front door, I've been banging on, I wish someone would be more authentic. I wish someone would be brave like me. Then I read that book and went, we're at the next level. This is fantastic.
Oh, good.
Honestly. Like I actually, when I did my flip open today, I started on the betrayal chapter. And not only was it so, I see now why I've read people's reviews and they're like, I've never read such an authentic, original, open. I was reading it and I just put myself in different times of my young life. You express the emotionality and the devastation and the questioning. It's visceral.
When you said that word betrayal and that chapter, I immediately get an emotional response because I've done so much healing and stuff over the years, but there's still those moments in life that still get us, aren't there?
Where I think at the time the level of devastation, the level of hurt, the level of shock actually I think as well, where you really feel the cliche of your heart being torn in two and the the confusion
shock.
And shock and I thought it was so powerful and kudos, man.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, you give me the next level now. I'm like, wow, all right, I'm not the head of the game here. I could go the next level. And then I did another flick, and I personally think Rumi is probably God.
Yes, I think so too.
But this one is Howard Thurman. So this is what Danielle says to me. This might be a good start for us. This is what Danielle says to me, and I question it all the time, a little bit like you say earlier, where you're very practiced at being serving and perhaps not as loving of oneself and the traps that can get us into. I have that same inclination. So I'm always thinking about this. How can it be of service to people? How can it be useful? Is it useful? I'm always questioning that.
Yeah.
And Danielle says, if we're having a good time, that's all we need to do.
Yeah.
And then my head explodes because I can't understand what she's saying. But this is the perfect quote. Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and then go and do that, because what the world needs is people who have come alive.
Exactly. Yeah.
Isn't it beautiful?
I love that quote. It's my life quote. Yeah.
It's so beautiful, and a little bit like feeling the devastation of that betrayal chapter and how you can feel it in your body. You can feel the opposite in that of the sparkles and the oxygen and the how's
life.
you put a LinkedIn post and I wrote a poem back to it.
I know, it was so beautiful.
I really liked that
poem was so lovely. Yeah.
It just came out of me, Kate. Like I read, that one was about listening to your heart, St. Augustine.
Yes.
I think one, because I didn't want to say you, because I was like, not you, Kate, but one, So I think one must listen carefully.
Yes.
And then I go, now a poem has come to me, which I will put on my comment.
And it was just glorious. At first I thought she must have taken this from somewhere.
That's what Danielle thought. I said, what do you think of my poem? She goes, I didn't know you wrote that. I said, I wrote it like then and there. I think it was channeled.
It was. Moments like that, if it just flows, I reckon it would have been.
I reckon it is.
There's no other explanation.
I don't think so. Couldn't have been my work. And where it came out, I was like, oh, How delightful.
It was beautiful.
Thank
and
you.
I was so touched that you wrote that on my post.
I know. Well, I was like, you must have inspired me, because I read your post, looked at the artwork and went, oh, that's beautiful artwork. I love that quote. And then, and then it came to me. And then when you liked it, because I'm always a bit insecure and needy, I loved that you liked it. So I was like, okay, Kate likes that I wrote it. This is all going very well. So why don't we, look, I can imagine talking to you about this idea of authenticity and what we do. Where shall we start? Do we start with what work you do now and how things show up? Do we start more historically and how you got to this point? What do you like to do?
Yeah, well, the word authenticity gets bandied around a lot nowadays, doesn't it? And I think for some people it's also a bit of a cliche, and what does it actually mean? So we could start there.
Yeah, let's start there.
What does it actually mean? Because there's a fine line as well. You know, in marketing they say it's important to be authentic.
Yes.
But then there are people that show up and bare their hearts and souls and everything that's going on in their life emotionally, and then it's like, whoa, that's too much. You know,
that's right.
Where's the line between authentic expression and oversharing? You know, and I always find that a sort of tricky one to navigate.
Yes.
But that's one thing, that's sort of self-expression, I suppose, but authenticity in the way you live your life.
Yes.
As someone, as you know, having read my book, having spent the first 35 years of my life just purely living to try and please everyone else.
Yeah.
Live up to expectations, followed a career path because that's what my dad wanted, if I'm honest with myself.
Yeah,
That's why I did it, and paid the price because, I always, at the end of the book, I say you always have two choices in life. You can either you can do what pleases others and suffer the internal conflict.
Yes.
Or you can do what pleases yourself and suffer the external conflict.
Ah, yeah, that's perfect.
And the external conflict is often the part we can't deal with. So that's why we choose to people please. As girls, I think that's the trap I fell into over and over again. It felt so uncomfortable and so disruptive to make everyone else uncomfortable.
Yes.
That I just bore the brunt of the decision and said, okay, well, I'll do what you all want because that's just easier to keep the peace.
Absolutely.
But if you do that over and over and over again, you end up totally disembodied from yourself. You don't know who you are. And as you know from my story, you end up in a heap on the floor in your mid-30s saying, who am I? I don't want to live anymore. This is awful. And
and I don't have the right adjective for what that would have been like for you, but what I get from it is actually not everyone who takes the wrong path ends up in such a devastating place.
No.
And do you know where I think it comes from that I'm making up? It comes up from your lustful life. So some people will do something, and I've seen this in people around me. So if I'm making a decision that doesn't feel right in my heart, I'll start to get either mentally or physically unwell or get very neurotic or... But I've seen other people and they can tolerate the wrong path with ease, or at least relative ease.
Yes.
Because I literally can't survive.
I'm just not one of those people.
You're not.
And you're not either.
No. And it's both been terrible and the thing that will have led you onto a much more joyful path, right? So I would rather be like us and go, if we're on the wrong path, the suffering's terrible, even though, you know, like you were saying and like you've got in the book, you've got a real level of terrible. It's not like, little blip.
No.
Massive, life-transformingly
Awful.
difficult.
Yeah.
Right? Awful's the right word.
Yeah.
But, you always had this passion. So, and it's really clear, like when you write about when you were younger and, you know, it's when you write the bit about, you know, I wanted to work in journalism and Italian and it's so clear. And it's the Howard Thurman quote, right? You can feel the light, you can feel the oxygen, you can feel the love.
Yep.
And this sparkling, open thing.
Yeah, aliveness,
And it's so clear to you. I mean, clearer than a lot of young people, right? So perhaps that was also in play because you had the joy of it and you had the path in your mind to then lose it and be almost on a diametric opposite path. It was almost worse that you knew so well what you wanted, if you know what I mean.
Yes, because I chose to shut it down.
Yeah.
And close that door. Yeah.
Yeah.
which is I get quite emotional. I don't know, maybe it's hormones, I don't know. I was just talking about my book as well.
Yeah.
But the Rumi quote in there about sometimes you hear a voice calling you through the door.
Yeah.
And this turning towards what you deeply love saves you.
Yes.
And I still get teary listening. He is God.
I think he is.
Yeah.
I think he is. And
because, that the power in that message, just if you turn towards that thing, that little crack in the door where the joy and the lightness that you're talking about,
yes,
that's what does end up saving you, even though it causes massive discomfort externally for everyone else.
When the two things, taking on the pain internally or externally, I could feel the difference and why I as well have chosen the internal path so many times. And also, as you say that quote, I can feel in my chest the tension of the crack in the door and the fear of pushing the door open.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I'm feeling it so strongly, maybe because of this conversation and us being here together, but I get why people can't always push that door because it feels like on the other side is a void.
Yeah.
Or fire, or everyone around you is going to die, or something
Massive
that
disruption.
big, right? I'm melodramatic, so
you
it
just
always
push it shut.
Right?
Yeah. That's right.
I didn't hear that.
Great sound effects.
Thank you. I did a cow the other day with passion. Yeah, I almost did it again then. I don't think we need a second cow. It's on a previous episode if anyone wants to hear the cow.
I need to go listen to that.
Right? That moment... so there's a couple of things, right? You and I know from various actions we've taken that if you push that crack open, yes, it will be frightening and yes, there will be disruption, smaller or larger, but there isn't a void. There is a path that feels right sort of for the first time. Like the poem I wrote on your post, I have felt this great discomfort in this process of this podcast. The podcast has been an ease and a joy. The noise around it for me has been very difficult.
Really?
It's partly because of what you said, or it's almost all because of what you said, where you said, what's the line for how we share authentically? And as I figure out who do I want to be publicly, what's the most useful contribution, what do I most enjoy myself as well, that's the line. So one time on LinkedIn not long ago, I put a post, I had no makeup, towel on my head, got welfare checked. I had 3 people professionally and 3 personal people get in touch privately and say, are you okay? Wow. And that I found the line. So I'm glad I did it because, you know, people are into growth and change, Kate.
Yeah.
Like you've heard about this growth mindset and mistakes are good. I'm completely not on board and now I'm doing that. So it's extremely uncomfortable. So part of me, I thought, oh, fantastic. I've seen the line. Next time, hair out and dry, bit of lippy. But if I hadn't done it, I wouldn't know. So
where that line was.
Where that line is. So there's a branding lady I talk about on here a bit because I really think she's fantastic and she's shares things that she's been useful for me for the last few years. You know when you hit someone and they're perfect for what you need to hear? She's been really useful. And one of the things she talks about really loudly and it really triggers me is you don't have to share all of you. You can have a brand and still be authentic. You can keep your private life. And I don't know what I think about that except that it always makes me want to fight with her and go, but if you're going to be true, you have to be wholly true. And then on your point, when is it just self-indulgent, not useful to other people? And I don't know the answer. That's why I'm still playing with it all.
No, and that line was really interesting to explore with my book because quite a few people have said to me, why did you share such intimate stuff? Because my parents read it and friends read it, colleagues have read it.
Yes.
And it's a lot to talk about your first sexual experience, your betrayal from ex-boyfriends, really intimate details of miscarriages and all the gory stuff.
Yes.
And you know, and I had quite a few people say, why did you feel the need to do that? And I said to them, because we all go through it, so why don't we talk about it?
Yes.
And I'm not doing it I don't believe I'm doing it through self-indulgence. The reason I chose to do that is because I read a book by Glennon Doyle. I don't know if you know her, Untamed.
Untamed, yeah.
Love that book.
Yeah.
She gave me permission because that book healed me. Her story, even though I haven't struggled with eating disorders but just the struggles she felt as a young woman and how she chose eating disorders to internalize the pain, whereas I
Yes.
chose overachieving. It's the
Yes.
same thing, but it's a different,
Yeah.
self-flagellation, isn't it?
Same restaurant, different food item.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And how brutally raw and honest she was in telling her story, that healed and helped me, made me feel like I wasn't alone,
Yes.
made me feel like there's other people out there struggling with similar things.
Yes.
And I know there's people so many people have experienced similar things to what I have. So why not just share in the name of helping each other heal and grow?
Yeah.
But that was a tricky one because...
Yeah. That's why I said testify. Like, I'm never going to say I'm the only one trying to be honest.
Real.
Oh, like I haven't seen anything that's made me go, I don't know if I'd share that much. I've never had that point. People always say to me, I share this and that. So I gave a talk the other day, Women in Leadership. I'm perimenopausal. I've shared about that on LinkedIn.
Yes, which again is fantastic.
Yeah.
Because it gave me permission to say, I've got a big zit on my chin because I'm in perimenopause.
Right.
And I hope you won't see it on the video camera.
Yeah, I don't know where it is, so you've done a perfect job, right?
Awesome. Concealer.
Right?
Yeah.
Concealer, thank
love it.
goodness.
I know.
Anyway.
Yeah. But yes, so I interrupted you.
No,
Sorry.
you
You're saying
didn't.
you were doing the women in
What
leadership.
interrupted me was I just thought of a terrible sexist joke about women and makeup and perfume, and I thought I can't share that. What I was going to say was sometimes I think men sometimes can look better more naturally than women. Like when I was younger, we go out for a big night, and the next morning the women would look like, please put something on that face, we'd be so grey. And the men always couldn't have makeup, right? But they always looked okay. And then the terrible joke I remembered was, why do women wear makeup and perfume? Because they're ugly and smell bad.
Oh, my goodness.
I told you it wasn't a good joke. Might have to edit it out, Grayson. We might get cancelled. Or it could be the controversy that has us go viral, Kate.
It could be.
And then you can distance yourself from the podcast and say, I didn't realise that Tamara was sexist and smellist.
And all publicity is good publicity.
All publicity is good. And I'm going like that to the camera. I'm like, this is awesome. I'm going to get Hugh. But then I'm the wrong brand for him. Right, we've got to think about this whole thing. We might still have to edit, Grayson.
You were saying about women in leadership and talking about perimenopause.
Thank you so much, because perimenopause made it very likely that I needed that reminder. That was awesome. I rock up to Women in Leadership. I do big talks a couple of times a year. Generally, I enjoy them. I'm a bit nervous, but we all have a good time, and I'm all right at it, if I do say so. Normally, I rock up, see the crowd, feel a bit nervous. I'm in prep mode. I'm okay. 2 days ago, I rocked up in the middle of premenstrual perimenopause. So I'm kind of like got premenstrual dysphoric disorder at the moment. I see the room of women and I go, I'm not going to be able to do it. Panic. Oh, it was so bad. And the reason I'm telling the story is two things happened. One, I was very vulnerable and wasn't pretending I wasn't. I was just quiet. I was sitting out in the lobby trying to calm down. And these beautiful women just sort of came and talked to me for no reason other than I think God sent them, and they sat down and went, how are you? And just talked to me about life. And I didn't say, I'm panicking, I don't think I can do my talk. But I just listened to their story and had a nice chat with them and got calmer and calmer. Anyway, Kim Lancer, who's my friend and was on this podcast. You know
Tall
Kim?
Poppies, yes.
Yeah,
I love her.
she's cool, man.
Yeah.
She's really cool. Oh, my God, you should have seen her red dress at Women in Leadership. Woo! Oh, so sexy.
Wow.
It was beautiful. Anyway.
She's a beautiful woman.
Yeah, she is. She's a beautiful woman and she's very positively powerful about having an impact for other women, right? I love that.
Yeah,
We're going to make 1 million women stand tall, right? That's the mission.
Yeah.
I said it's a bit small, but we can start there with her power.
We can start.
We start there. So I said at the beginning of the talk, she said to me, because she was the last person I talked to before I got up, and I was calmer by then, and then once I spoke to her, I was right. And she said, listen, they're a really nice crowd. And the energy is very good. And that was kind of the final piece of the puzzle for me to feel okay. Anyway, when I got up, she said they really appreciate authenticity and people who've shared their real story have had the best reactions. So I thought, all right. So I stood up and said, hello, I'm doing the takeaway session. It's the last session of the day, of the 2 days. Listen, I wasn't going to share this, but when I arrived, I'm in perimenopause and I had my fan with me. Actually, I had Danielle's mum's fan with me because it's the more glamorous. It's white with gold. Lovely. Right. I said I was so anxious when I arrived. I wasn't actually sure I was going to be able to do this. But then because of the women in this room and some of them who spoke to me, I was able to feel better and actually got to the point where I was like, oh, am I nervous enough now? I feel so much better. But I shared the bit. I do feel that it's right for me to share the truth as often as possible when it is of service, because what happened was I shared that. We joked about having the fan. I said, I've got a spare. I took it for one of the ladies at the back table who asked for it. And the whole thing becomes, and then someone after it, because sorry, Grace, and I hit the mic, afterwards, because I was literally using a fan. I'd lost my jacket, put my hair up, and a couple of people, when they commented they'd like the talk, one of them said, Trina Sunday actually said, I'm fangirling. And at
Trina.
first,
I
right?
love her, yeah.
And she said, I'm fangirling. I didn't get it at first. I went, that's so cool. And then I went, she's fangirling.
That's so,
because I was like,
boom, boom.
boom, boom.
That's a good Trina comment.
Right? Yeah. So yeah, the bits that I read that struck me, I think you will have fulfilled your intention, particularly where the thing, I think, as I read your historic betrayal chapter, and I had historic betrayal, I felt the sadness of that time historically. That's a pain that still lives in me, but with space around it, right? It's like, that was bad.
Yeah.
I think when people are in the very thing you've been through and they read it at that time, whilst it's comforting for me, I think the balm will come from, when you hear, like you said, when I shared that perimenopause post, I had 2 or 3 people private message me. I have quite a lot of people secretly like me, Kate, and I think it's because of this thing we're talking about. They're like, I don't know about you, you're saying whatever the hell you want. Bit weird. Bit not linked in, but I dig ya. I'll private message you so no one attaches me to you.
Yes.
There's something like that going on.
Which is good, because that means you're touching something and they want to start a conversation about it, but it doesn't have to be in the public.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you heard the saying, and I can't remember where I got it from, I care too much about the outcome to worry about being liked. That's kind of what I want to be.
Yes.
I'm not there yet. I'm semi there. I'm partly there.
Yeah.
I'm getting there.
Yeah, me too, I think. Yeah, I've got a very thick skin now over the years.
Have you?
Well, much thicker than I used to. And that is the very sentiment that's kept me going. Someone said to me once, but there's people out there that need to hear what you have to say. So if you don't show up, that's just being selfish. And I was like, wow. So whenever I do a post now, it's not about me, it's about this. I always say to myself, there's someone out there right now that needs to hear this.
Yes.
And that's more important than how much engagement I get or don't get.
Yes. Thank you. Danny, I'll make a note, please, in your logical mind to repeat that to me, because if I can take that stance with everything I post, it's going to free me up a lot, because then I'm just coming from my heart.
Yeah.
And the stuff actually, when I have posted from my heart, I will tend to get a better level of reaction.
Yep.
Because you can feel it.
Yep.
Yeah, you
That's
can
right.
feel it. Yeah. Yeah, how nice. That's super perfect. Thank you very much for saying that. So in your life at the moment, why don't we talk a little bit about what you do, what is inspiring to you around that, what you do right now, and then we might go back a little bit in time and talk more about this authenticity journey. So your professional title, so you're Dr. Kate De Jong, which I love. So that means you did a PhD.
I did.
And what was the subject?
Okay.
It was a long time ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2003 I finally submitted, got confirmed.
How many years did it take?
3.5.
Oh, that's fast.
I powered through, and I pretty much burned myself out in the process.
Whoa.
Which was just the way I did things back then. Yeah,
now, do you want to talk about it, or is it boring to you and you don't want to and people can Google?
Oh, I can talk about it. It was in bioprocess engineering. It's very left field. My dad wanted me to be an engineer.
Yes.
I didn't want to be the standard kind of engineer, because I'm always even though I'm trying to people please, I need to be a little bit different from my own. What's the word? Sense of integrity or something.
Yes.
But, it's like, I will please you, but I'll do it my own way.
Yes.
Which didn't end well, as we know. But so I chose to study biotechnology and bioprocess engineering, which was new at Murdoch Uni at the time. But I loved it because it was like chemical engineering, but with the whole biological piece.
Wow.
So bacteria, microorganisms, and harnessing the microscopic world for the benefit of mankind. So that covers pharmaceuticals, it covers finding cures for genetic diseases. It covers large-scale mining, which is how I ended up going into bioleaching, which is a mining process using bacteria to extract metals from the ore.
Oh, wow.
So my first job out of uni as a graduate was with BHP in Reno, USA, where working as a process engineer on a mine in Chile called Escondido, which was a big chili. No, they weren't cultivating chilies in Chile. It was a copper mine.
I was going to say, was it a
Heap
copper
leaching.
mine?
Yeah.
Because the north of Chile has copper mining.
Yeah.
Andy and I lived there for 7 months.
That's right. Yes.
And one of my first Uber drivers, or whatever the equivalent was there, his father owned a copper mine. And I said, why are you driving this car? And he said, I want to be independent. It was a very fancy car from memory. But
right.
Yeah. So you were in the US dealing with it. Okay.
Yeah, but as you know, I did live in South America, so we've got that connection as well.
Yeah.
I love it. But yeah, and then I decided I want to get out of mining. That was in '98 when the whole industry just imploded,
Yes.
and then we all got laid off. Came back to Australia. I knew I didn't want to continue on in mining. It didn't align with my values. So then I went into water. I wanted to get into something environmental. So at the time, there were no jobs in Perth for engineers at the time. It was just like nothing.
Wow.
So different to today. Where
I was going to say.
Yeah. And so I thought, well, I may as well study again then. So got a sponsor from a local Environmental Solutions International, was a local engineering company doing wastewater treatment. And I said, hey, have you got something you need researched? And they said, yeah, we're trying to figure this out. I said, great, I'll do that if you pay me. And they were like, cool. So, did that for 3.5 years. So I met my husband, who sadly we're now separated, but he's from Holland and I met him in America. So I moved to Holland I did about 2 years of my PhD in Holland, which was amazing because the Dutch are right up there for water and wastewater stuff. They were like leaders in the world. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then how do I end up doing what I'm doing now? So to cut a very long story short.
Yeah.
Yeah, massively overachiever, because those that have read my book will know I just never felt enough. There was just this impossible bar that I felt that I was expected to meet, and it was just overachieving was the only way I knew how to feel enough.
Yeah.
And so it was, do a basic degree, do honours. What's the next achievement? Do a PhD. What's the next achievement? Make your way up in a company and climb the ladder.
Yes.
And so that's what I did. I climbed the ladder, started off as a consulting process engineer, became a team leader, moved into management, then client relationship management. But the whole time it was like I was dying a slow death because I was not in my zone of genius. I felt like a fraud. I had massive anxiety constantly. I had to be really careful about what I would wear because I was just sweating in meetings.
Wow.
And it was just
It's really
awful.
easy to feel when you talk. I'm like, I can so be there, what it would have felt like. And yeah.
Yeah, and I just started getting chronic illnesses that wouldn't go away, and it just got worse and worse until eventually, my thyroid just completely flipped, and that's when I had hyperactive thyroid, so I just couldn't keep. And I couldn't keep any calories in my body. It would just burn.
Yes.
So I ended up looking like a skeleton and couldn't sleep. It was just horrendous.
Really a living nightmare.
It was a living nightmare. And it's like the frog in boiling water, where it just happens slowly over a period of about 10 years. And then at the end you're like, I actually just feel suicidal and don't want to wake up anymore. How did I get here?
Wow.
Yeah.
It's I can't help but keep going back to that theme of the lust for life. It's not the right way of saying it. Like it was like the power of good, because it was flipped upside down. You had a super extreme version of not that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like shows who you are in a wonderful way. People say, things happen for a reason and all the rest, and certainly stuff would have come out of it, but I wouldn't wish it on you.
No.
Like, how do you feel about that? Do you feel like what ended up coming out made it all worth it, or I wish I'd taken a different path earlier if I had a magic wand?
That's a hard one.
Isn't it?
For years I just was grieving the fact that I chose the wrong path, because I could have been doing this, and this, like I still get teary thinking about what if I'd just done journalism like I'd wanted to, and languages but I don't regret it because the skills I learned as an engineer I'm using now every day, and they've benefited me so much. Like it does give you a really, like you guys in that field, your mind, your brain just becomes really strong. It's hard to explain, isn't it? But
it is,
with that constant need to analyse and like it just gives you a really strong, resilient mind.
Yes, and I think what can be hard to recognise in different people is the way the skill is coming into play.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll do what you do now and there will be a level of engineering skill, but it won't be explicit.
No,
it won't,
exactly.
Right? So it'll be because of your learning, because of structures you've worked with, the way your brain's been stretched, what you've taken on, you'll be talking to Andy about something that's not engineering, but you'll come from that perspective.
Yeah, and it's been so fun working with him because he's in the engineering world. You guys are dealing with mining companies, right? And it's all large-scale industrial workers and
yes.
And so it's been fun working with him because it's about his systems, and so it gives me that ability to sit with him and go, right, let's look at the big picture and then how do we break this down? And it's been, so that's definitely pulling on the engineering skills. And
yes, it absolutely is. And as you said, I'm like, right, what can you and I work on, because I don't have that skill. So yeah, that's fantastic.
But it's interesting because what you said about the angle, I like to think about it as your zone of flow or genius or whatever you want to call it, but it's that zone where things just feel so easy.
Yes.
And I have this memory of being in Holland, a head stuck in a spreadsheet all day, like crunching massively, difficult calculations, trying to figure out this process for this client. And then someone came to me, a Dutch colleague, and said, hey, I've got this report in Dutch. He knew that I speak fluent Dutch and English, and he said, I really need it translated into English today. Do you think you could do it? And I looked at it, sort of 10 pages, and I think so. Yeah, and he gave me a job code so I could charge my time. Yeah. So I just sat there and just translated this thing. So easy. And it just felt like massively valuable to him because he just said, oh, my goodness, this is amazing, thank you.
Yes.
And I was like, easy. And then I thought, oh my goodness, imagine if that's what work was for some people, that it's just easy.
Right?
Yeah. And then I thought, oh my goodness, imagine if I could live my life in that zone where it feels easy, but it's massively valuable to someone.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where I made the choice when my knees finally hit the floor in the book after our second miscarriage. And that's when I was like, that's it, I'm done, I'm out.
Yeah.
The choice I made was I'm going to find work that is valuable to other people but feels easy to me.
Yeah.
And that's been my commitment. And I'm happy to say I'm doing it mostly.
Yes.
Sometimes I catch myself in old patterns and ways, but I really now, like I had a client on Friday say, could you do this, next week? And I'm like, and to myself, I'm thinking, oh, it's so easy. Yes, I can do that.
Oh, how cool.
And what's your fee? And I said, it's this. Great, go ahead. And it's like, easy money.
Oh, and you're right. I'm loving this episode. I'm going to keep playing it to myself because what you just said about that feeling of joy and ease and it's still contributory.
Yeah.
Because that's what this has been for me. So when I'm sitting in this chair, it's joyful and easy and I could do it every day. And Danielle and I are sad because Grayson is selfishly having a holiday in December.
Oh, he's so rude. Selfish.
Year 12, other stuff, having a life. Now he's going on a holiday. All about him, man.
Yes, all about the youth of today.
I don't think I was talking to Grayson about the youth of today. I taught at a school a couple of weeks ago and I said, what do people say about you guys? And they're like, we're lazy, we aren't committed, we're soft, rah. I said, well, I know the truth. You guys are awesome. It's just that you don't move your faces in ways that suit old people and you've got opinions that we don't want you to have because all the things that motivated us don't motivate you.
Yeah.
We work with companies and they go, what am I going to do with my young people? They're not motivated by fear and they're not motivated by promotion, and that's what our whole careers were based on. Yeah. I'm like, you really got to kind of start again.
Have a purpose or something that
Can you imagine?
Meaningful.
Ridiculous, Kate. How about enjoying themselves and growing and learning? Oh,
doing something that feels easy but massively
Fluffy.
valuable, using their skills in a way that
feels easy but massively valuable. That is so cool. That is what a joy.
Yeah.
And so you're able to do that most of the time. And then what's the old patterns? Do you take on work doesn't appeal as much?
Yes.
Do you do things in a way that doesn't appeal as much? Like, what's the piece?
Sometimes just the old patterns that money doesn't come easily, which is what I grew up hearing.
Yes.
Money doesn't grow on trees. You have to slog hard to earn good money. And that's just a subconscious thing that I'm conscious of now more and more, but it's in the background running things a lot of the time. So, I'll end up saying yes to jobs that I know are going to be really hard, but I'll do it because there's money there.
Got it. Yeah, I'm the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's things I'll say yes to and go, you don't have a lack anymore, but there's a sense of lack that I haven't shifted through, even now that the business is successful, I'll still think, but we can't say no to anything.
Yes, whereas actually you can, and you probably end up being so much better off. That's the leap of faith that I'm struggling with, and the 10x mentality. I'm sure you've read that book, have you?
No.
There's Dan McMillan.
I know the name Dan McMillan.
He's written a number of really powerful books. 10x, I could be wrong, we might need to fact check that, but 10x is easier than 2x.
Okay.
So basically saying most business planning, you look for incremental change or double. He said, but actually what you need to be doing is looking for the 10x, looking for just letting go of the 80% of busy and focusing on the 20% of massive high impact, stuff that you love, but letting go of the 80% of busy is where the fear is, because you think, but what if the 20% doesn't work out?
I know.
But you've got to sort of go all in for that philosophy to work. And I still struggle with that, because I take a big leap and then I scurry back to my comfort zone. Because I know I can make money doing that. And
I know.
Yeah.
There's two things. One is Danielle and I often talk about this. I think we disappoint ourselves as humans when we can see the possibility of not being human, and then we keep being human. So I think that part is in play. It's like, I know not to, the God part of me knows not to do that, but the human part still does it. But the other element you remind me of is, I've mentioned here before, we love a poet called David White. Have you ever heard David White?
I've heard of him.
Oh, yeah, he's very beautiful. He's very beautiful in voice, face, and more importantly, his poems are real life changers. He was talking to Sam Harris one day, and he was talking about how he believes that we're about 6 to 7 years ahead of where we are, but we're catching up with ourselves. So whether it be, he doesn't call it this, but our higher consciousness or our spirit or our higher self is about 6 to 7 years ahead. But the rest of us that's like, hang on, we've got to look after the 80%, there's never enough, what if there's a downturn, all of that, the fear-based stuff is kind of holding us back, and then we catch up over time, but we're always ahead of ourselves.
Oh, interesting.
We have a read of some of his stuff. He's on Facebook for a very easy read, and then he has different courses, he has different things online. And, when you hit the right thing for you that he's written, it's transformative. It's strong to say he's the modern Rumi, but he's in the direction.
Right.
He's certainly a Mary Oliver, if not more.
Beautiful.
Yeah, really thanks, David. And thanks for talking with that voice and having that face. Bonus.
Oh, really? I need to look him up now.
Look him up. Lovely. He's an Irish Yorkshireman.
Oh, beautiful.
Yep, he literally is. So, yeah. Now, did I take us off track? I do that. So we're talking about, having the faith. Yeah. Doing stuff that you love that feels easy.
And going all in on that.
Yeah, and going all in on that.
Yeah.
So tell me about what your client looks like at the moment. Have they got the same kind of flavour? Is there all different flavours? Yeah,
so I tend to help people like me who didn't fit in the corporate box to find their way and survive outside the system, as I call it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And entrepreneurial-minded people that just, try as I might. I just did not fit in the corporate world. I always felt like a square peg in a round hole, and I was always butting the system, but people weren't ready to be butted, and, it's just a constant. Whereas now, having, I suppose, the privilege of forging your own path, it's a privilege and sometimes feels like a burden, because, being responsible for your own income is a big, heavy burden to carry sometimes, isn't it? When you think of the so-called secure paycheck, even though that's not secure either.
No, not anymore.
No.
I think there was security in it. I think that's pretty much long gone.
Yeah.
But certainly psychologically there still feels like there's a security.
Yeah.
It reminds me of what you said at the beginning around, do you want the internal pain or the external pain? And
Exactly.
Mark Manson says, choose your pain, right? Do you want the pain of exercise or do you want the pain of feeling fat?
Yeah.
Do you want the pain of this or the pain of that?
Yeah.
And
that's exactly right.
I think for me, I knew a long time ago I would take the pain of fear and risk over the pain of feeling trapped in a position I didn't want to be in.
Me too. That's why we resonate. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, this is better. No joke. I get why people don't want to do it. And I don't actually have any judgment around that because they just must have a higher driver for security.
Yes.
And that's very human and very understandable.
Yeah.
And when Andy and I first started this, the lady, Danielle McNamee from Process Works, she's a very, very, what's the word I'm looking for, like driven businesswoman who's built this real little empire. I met her as a mentor in the early days and I was still consulting as a trainer, and she said, you have to stop consulting. And I said, well, I'm the only income. She said, well, starvation's a great motivator.
I remember, I think I heard that in one of your podcasts. Yeah. Yes, it is a great motivator.
It certainly was.
Yeah.
And she absolutely had it right, and it was probably the worst, or I've got a few competitive times in life, but it was one of the worst 6 months to a year of my life.
Yeah. Okay.
When we had no income. And the thing was, I am melodramatic, so things feel melodramatic to me, but because I knew I didn't want to work, it felt like I didn't have that option. Therefore, if the business didn't work, we were going to die.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't really feel like, listen, you don't even have overheads, you don't have a storefront, you don't have staff. Worst case, you get a job. That feels like nothing, but to me it was like, worst case, you die.
Yeah, because going back feels like death.
I'm not going to do it.
That's the same with me. There is no option.
There is no option.
And especially this year, separating from my husband of 25 years, officially now there's no safety net for me anymore. You know, I'm on my own, and it is a massive motivator. Like,
yes,
you know, when we first separated, and yeah, it literally was like, oh my gosh, I have to. And it was the toughest year. This year has actually been one of the toughest of my life because I had to just knuckle down and, you know, make it work financially for myself, even though I was dealing with all the stuff. I had no choice. It was like I can either, you know, I moved out on my own and can either pay rent and you know, keep all the bills and the groceries and everything while trying to manage a very emotionally painful separation. And But there was no option. So I'm not going back. Well, to be honest, there were at least 3 times when I did consider going back and getting a job because it just the overwhelms felt so huge of trying to deal with it all.
Yes.
And so I've been on Seek this year and I've looked at jobs and I've even gotten very close to applying for some where I thought I had a good chance. But then something inside me was just you know what's going to happen if you do that. You'll end up dying a slow death inside again anyway. Right. So you've spent 10 years now. I first started my business in 2014. So 10 years building this, you know, foundation and platform and to then give that up now, you lose all that momentum, all that traction you've built. So I was just like, I can't do it. I have to make this work.
Yes.
And funnily enough, it works out. There's that beautiful quote. Paul Coelho is another of my favourite.
Yes.
He's the alchemist, isn't he? He wrote The Alchemist. Yes. Yeah, I think it was in that book he wrote, the path of the heart is no easier than any other. It's just that your whole heart is in this journey. I thought that is so true.
It is so true.
I'm getting my butt kicked all over the place.
Really?
But my heart is in this.
Yes.
And I'm living fully and authentically, to go back to your...
Yes.
You know, the topic of authenticity, I feel authentic because I'm living my truth. I'm walking what I preach, which is do what you love, do what makes you come alive.
Yes.
And so I can handle the pain and the discomfort because my heart's in it and I feel authentic. It feels aligned.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
I absolutely know what you mean. And it might be the wrong word to use, but congratulations on the level. So I sometimes think about if Andy was to die or we were to break up, and the role we both play and the enormity of not having that support in so many different ways. And I sort of have a negative fantasy idea where I imagine it, and it's a very frightening thought and overwhelming. So when you say that you thought maybe I'll get a job or whatever, it's both very understandable. But two other things come to me as you tell the story. One is that they're ongoing. I think you must be living your true life as a beacon for others, because the opportunity of your experience, your level of courage is such that you will have many times already and continue to have other people be able to access their own courage. And the difference I see between you, Kate, and other courageous women that I know some very powerful and courageous women, but what they're not able to do is be the truth of their whole selves. They be their professional, wonderful, powerful self, but the other side is never discussed, acknowledged, or and you're saying, here I all am, and I'm still doing it, and that's why I can't really express it physically or in words properly, but I kind of feel like jumping up and down and giving you a hug and going, this is extraordinary, like, thank you, this is so, like, yeah, like that. That's all right. Yeah, because it's no joke, man. And then 25 years, that means from your very young adult life.
Yeah, we met when I was 23, yeah.
And then the intertwined nature of your relationship, the things you will have gone through together, the pain of pulling apart. Before we started talking, I asked if you wouldn't mind talking about this, and you said you wouldn't mind. So you just guide me on how long you want to spend on it.
Otherwise I'll say pineapple.
Yes. Do you know what? Someone told me, speaking of the feet channel on porn that we were talking about before, that pineapple's some sexual code.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Honestly.
We just can't get it right, can we?
We're so innocent, Kate. We're just innocent.
Too innocent for this world.
It's like, what? What do you mean pineapple's...
That's so funny.
Come on, but you can use it. So, yeah, that, I suppose all I wanted to say was acknowledge without understanding it. Understanding it as a frightened fantasy of mine, but not understanding it as having been through it. And that connection, the disconnection, the pain, the grief, the fear that I've still got to keep going. Meanwhile, you're still supporting people the whole time, right? So you're dealing with whatever you're dealing with, and you're rocking up to clients, hey, how are you? What do you need?
Yes, and running a group mastermind where I'm showing up and trying to hold space for all these people going through their own stuff. And it's been tough. And I did go through a whole year when I just couldn't post on social media because I just had nothing left to put out to the world. I was 100% self-preservation, and I'm just coming out of that now, which is good, which is why I've been posting more in the last sort of 3 months, and it's sort of like, hi, I'm back.
Hi.
Here I am, I'm still here. Yeah.
But I also think that's true as well. I think the time of non-posting when you're just trying to survive, that's true. That is authentic, right? Because I've had it with a couple of different colleagues and friends where they will become quieter or louder, and it's because of whatever they're doing at the time is more inner or more outer.
Yes.
It's more comfortable to talk out loud or not.
Yeah.
There's something to say or there's not. I think actually when I post and it doesn't work so well, it's that I'm feeling I have to post.
Yeah.
Because you're meant to keep up a particular, the shoulds and meant tos and all that BS. And actually when it works, it's because I'm drawn to do it. Because I can feel what will come out of it. Like, I'm going to post soon. We had these 2 podcasts here, just our normal Friday 50-50, and on one of them I totally project onto Danielle. Didn't realise I was doing it. Then watch the video, realise it. And then in our next podcast we discuss it. Fascinating. I look terrible.
But very self-aware of you. So many people do that but don't reflect and then acknowledge and share about it.
If it wasn't on video, I wouldn't have known it happened.
Wow, but kudos to you for... That.
This is the piece where I feel like I need to do my part. I don't need to be liked. That's where it feels true, right? So I'm like, that's not self-indulgent. That's me going, hey, you want to learn something about human nature? Watch me in action. And we get to talk about the Johari window, blind spot. I say to Danielle, if you'd raised it with me, I would have had no idea that I'd done it. I would have denied it, and probably vehemently, because it's, my blind spot. I would never project onto you. I would never do that.
Yep.
Just for the camera. I already have my 10-year-old Mercedes, but we're hoping to upgrade. Love you, Mercedes. Some people watch on YouTube and some people just listen.
Yeah.
So then I have to say, Danielle helped me. She said, remember, not everyone's watching. You have to say what you're doing.
I'm holding a Mercedes-Benz cup.
I like to mime a lot. It's not really appropriate for a podcast.
Yeah. Brene Brown and vulnerability is, I can see you're really living that. It's not easy to admit in a public forum that you've projected onto someone, for example. Like, that's massively vulnerable to admit that you've done that and to acknowledge. And I think that's really brave.
Thank you. Yeah, I look like a total asshole. You should see when she comes back in the door. I do this passive aggressive. I look at her like this. I go, we're still recording, Danielle, with this tone. Didn't even realise I'd done it. And then, I was like, it's too good. We have to use it because no one videos themselves misbehaving.
No, and let alone shares it,
right?
And then reflects
shares
on it and
then,
says, hey, look at me doing this.
Well, I blame Grayson because he and I thought it was hilarious. I didn't realise what I'd done. Danielle's like, no, I don't want to post it. It doesn't make the podcast studio look professional. We're ignoring her. Let's put it out. And then I watch it and go, oh, no, talk about karma. I should have listened to Danielle.
Oh.
Yeah. And then I said, it's not a joke. Andy sometimes records me when we're arguing because he goes, you don't know how you're talking to me right now. I'm going to record it. Mm-hmm. He's only done it a couple of times. I'm not keen. Oh, yeah, record it.
I would not like to see myself back to me when I'm in that state. No.
Well, I said to him, that's not fair. The last time he did it, I was already amygdalaing. I was already in fight, flight, freeze. I said, now you're going to record all the shit stuff. You didn't even record the bit when I was calm. And that's on the video, I'm like, bloody hell.
Yeah.
Poor old Sam. We got this 10-year-old, right? You imagine living with us too? Woo!
Oh.
He said to me, we were doing Halloween and I was super stressed and yelling at him and he was yelling at me and we're trying to get his popcorn box fixed. And anyway, we're driving to trick or treat and I said, look, love, I'm sorry I lost it at home. I'm not very good at that when I feel time pressure and trying to get it right. And he goes, I'm sorry, Mum, I wasn't very nice too. And I said, that's wonderful, love. You're 10 and I'm 50. The bar's a little bit higher on this side, even though I appreciate you.
That is beautiful mothering, I have to say. And I try to do that too. I think as long as we can admit to our children when we've been an asshole or if we've done the wrong thing, I think because my mum could never do that. She could never apologise, never admit fault.
No.
And that I think it's really, my belief is it's beneficial that our kids hear us apologise when we've been out of line.
I really love that you said that and I can agree with us. And the reason I can agree with us is I was speaking to a lady that I'm going to have on here and we were talking about the actual data around it. If you misbehave, apologise and rectify, they see that human beings don't have to be perfect and have this animal side to them, like monkey side to us really. Then they get the apology and the explanation so they don't get left with the sense they've done the wrong thing.
Yes.
So you or I or most people of our generation weren't apologised to and we just assumed we'd done it wrong, right?
I thought I was at fault for everything.
Oh, me too. It was all me, But I think I've told the story on here, but I'll mention it because it won't be a bad thing to repeat. When I most realised it with Sam, that he was less afraid than I was. So Andy and I can both be reactive, inappropriately reactive, and like that with him. And anyway, one day Andy was in the bedroom doing some work, and I knew he was grumpy, so I was a bit nervous around him, right? Because my 8-year-old self was a bit nervous around him. Sam says, let's use some of my spy stuff and play a trick on Dad. And I instantly become 8 and go, no, because he's going to get grumpy if we do that. And Sam goes, don't worry about it. I go, no, he will yell at us. And Sam goes, Mum, look, even if he does, he won't mean it. Sometimes he gets grumpy. He'll say sorry afterwards. Like, it's nothing. Don't worry about it.
Wow.
I know. And
Such freedom.
I was like, what you just said, I'm so happy to report that you and I are right. And when we apologise, we may not completely remove the hurt, but it largely removes it.
Yeah.
And they're not left with a scar that just grows over time.
That's right.
Now, Andy, I think, uses it too much. He says, well, as long as we apologise. I go, that doesn't mean you behave however you want, not control yourself.
That's right. It should be reserved for extreme cases.
That's where I literally couldn't, where we're trying to get a popcorn box together and it needs to look good and I can't get it to look good. Oh, dear. And I said to him, I said it on here, it's actually one of the areas I have no idea how I'm going to get better at it. You know, when you think, I'll work on that, but this one trigger is so perfect for me to instantly lose my mind and become the rhesus monkey they say we are when we're under pressure. it's like, oh, wow, that combo, man. I've got to really have a bit more of a think about that because it's just dynamite. It's Tinder, whatever they say.
Yeah.
Not the Tinder.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, there we go again.
How's that world, right? Like young people now, and they're in that whole world of, you know, imagine like when you met your husband, that if you were 23 now, there'd be Tinder and Grindr and there's meant to be a nice one for relationships, Bumble.
Yes.
Bumble.
Yeah.
Does sound nice.
It does.
But
it has a soft energy about it.
It certainly does, compared with Grindr, but that's a whole different
No,
thing.
yeah, that does not have a soft energy.
It does not have a soft energy, but I don't think soft is the thing people are looking for on there.
No, that's not a soft platform.
Not to stretch the analogy. So what does, if you've had this massive thing you're dealing with, couldn't have really been bigger. Then you've got your clients at the moment. You already know there's ways you like working that are more, but you've had to combine that with your fear around in real new level of independence.
Yeah, and financial security.
Security.
Yeah, it's been a lot. Yeah.
And then you go.
No, well, people say, you know, when people say, oh, you're so brave.
Yes.
For leaving your husband. But I think it's back to what we were saying. It's choose your pain. I can either stay with the pain of living with someone who I feel disconnected from and cannot connect to, and we've tried everything. We've just grown so far apart.
Yes.
There's no possibility for reconnection anymore.
Yes.
You can either live with that pain or choose the pain of disrupting your entire lives and of your children. We've got 2 boys, 10 and 13, you know, and I was very aware of the impacts of destroying the family unit for them.
Yeah.
But it's like, but I'd rather choose that pain because I think I can handle it, and I think my kids will be better off if they see that I'm choosing my truth, because that will benefit them in the long run, because I lived with parents who were unhappy for 10 years and I knew they were unhappy and they argued all the time, and I just wished they would separate.
Yes.
And I didn't want my kids being around that.
No.
And so I thought, as painful as this is, I know that they'll see that we are happier separately. Yes. And as it turns out, you know, I ask them every now and then, how do you think Dad's doing? I say to them, he seems good to me. He's had a shift in the last sort of few months where initially he was very angry and bitter, and but just in the last few months something's shifted for him where I think he's experienced finally letting go and this lightness of life beyond me, and that actually me stepping away has liberated him to live his best life, because he was also unhappy even though he doesn't want to admit it.
Yes.
And the kids have said he's stepped up in terms of how he parents and he's such a better dad now. They said he's not angry anymore. He doesn't shout at them. And so I've liberated him and liberated the kids, I feel, even though it's still that guilt that I carry about, you know, destroying the family unit. I do feel that it's going to benefit them long term, and they see me living authentically and choosing for what makes me happy is going to be good for them. And I saw a quote many years ago. It said the biggest pain for a child is to see the unlived, what was it, potential of the mother or something like the
the version that I've heard is happy children have mothers who live happy lives, not trying to make their child have a happy life. So a lot of women will naturally think, I just put myself aside and focus on the child.
Sacrifice myself for the child.
But actually, for the child to understand how to be happy themselves, they need to watch happiness. I don't know if you're going to be able to take my advice on this because of the natural nature of feeling guilty, but I can't express more strongly how right I think you were to do what was right for you. And the piece, I think, if you want to soothe the balm for yourself, your husband feeling better. This happened with Ash McGrath. So she was my first interviewee. She broke up with her first husband, and the way she expressed it, I'm paraphrasing, Ash, if you're listening, she was shocked to see that after all the effort she had put in, where her husband was really dropping the ball, in her opinion, very ordinary in every way. She was working very hard to keep the marriage together. After a while, after they broke up, he seemed a lot happier, and he commented to her that he was happier, and she was quite shitty because she was like, I work like a dog, mate, to make this thing work. You don't get to be happy now. I get to be happy because I put in all the hard work. And I said to her, it's because he would have felt the pain of not keeping up with you for years and not being good enough and not knowing how to connect. look at your journey. How on earth could another human being have perfectly got to this point with you? It's almost, it would have almost been impossible for what has happened not to happen. Over a 25-year span, two different human beings from a different start, you did incredibly to be together as long.
Yeah.
And then for your boys to watch your truth and not to have the guessing game of are mum and dad happy or not, the constant insecurity of are they going to be together or not. I don't have the right to tell you how to feel, but I want you to really reflect on, is there anything to actually feel guilty about?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I
It's
would
just
argue there's
conditioning
nothing.
Yeah.
It's completely understandable you feel guilty. Like if I made the same decision you did and someone said to me, don't feel guilty, that was the right decision, I'd go, fuck off, of course I'm going to feel guilty. But actually, as best as you can, because feeling guilty takes energy and you don't have that much to share.
No, it's not a good emotion.
It's like, you know,
it's not
okay,
helpful.
yeah, of course I feel guilty because that's what I've been taught to feel. But actually, what have I done for this ex-husband? What have I done for these children? What have I done for me? Is it actually right to feel guilty? And the joy of watching this fellow in amongst the pain and loss and everything, to have him ease.
Yeah.
It is brave though. I can't get why it couldn't be.
Yeah.
Because I get, because you're such a truth liver, you're like, but what else am I meant to do?
Yeah. There's
So
no
for
choice
you, it's
here.
not brave. It's
No, it felt like the only option.
That's right.
Yeah.
But for other people, like I said, there's more moderate people, Kate. Like they, you know, I remember saying to one of my friends who's had a difficult marriage, and I said, oh, you know, what do you think? And she goes, well, the house. And I was like, oh, okay. It helps me moderate how I understand different people to, they don't have the extreme feeling of wrongness when it's wrong. They can soften it.
Tolerate a lot of discomfort
a lot.
in the name of something else. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, no, we're not doing that thing.
And we just renovated our house. We just spent a lot of money renovating. That's why we'd moved out into a rental. And when it came to the point of moving back into the brandly new, gorgeous, done-up house, I just said, I'm not moving back in. And, and that was hard because the house, you know.
The house.
and when I go around there, I'm like, oh, my goodness, imagine living here. But I was imagining living there.
That's right.
And I knew the pain of living in that house would just be bigger than the pain of not living in the house.
Absolutely.
So,
and there's something about the freshness of the new house that doesn't match the freshness of the relationship. It actually makes the pain worse.
Exactly. That's well done. That's good insight. That's how I see it. It's this brand new, beautiful house.
Yeah.
But our relationship is not that. It's nothing can help us be that anymore.
No, it heightens the pain of the loss of the relationship because it's like when I go and stay at the Ritz and bring my scuffy sneakers and when I put them in the room I go, they don't really deserve to be in this room.
Right. Yeah.
It shows up what doesn't work.
That's so true.
So and to be honest, as much as I like being told I had good insight, the very same thing actually happened to me before Andy, my previous boyfriend, and I, who I had desperately tried to stay with for years, just because I was in my 30s and I wanted to have a relationship and I was insecure and I was just like, and everyone told me you can just work hard at it and make it work. So I really couldn't have worked harder. Anyway, towards the end, we looked at a new house and I loved this house very much. And when we took action to move in that direction, the starkness of what I just said to you brought up the intolerability of the relationship to a point of I couldn't keep going.
Yeah.
The house triggered me to go, I can't do it. Isn't it funny? The energetic feeling of the two things mismatching.
Yeah. It's fascinating. Yeah.
So it's only a curiosity question. It's not a useful one. Is your husband in the house? Have you?
He's back in the house that we renovated.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm happy that he's there because he put a lot of effort into the renovation, project managed it, did everything. You know, I had a lot of resentment about that he put so much more effort into the house than into our marriage. But
yes.
I've let that go now.
Yeah, I get it. I get it on both fronts.
And so, and for the kids, it's they know the neighbours in the street, and it's something solid for them, you know. So at least they've got that hasn't changed.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's funny. There's been a lot of things along the way that have helped me. And Glennon Doyle's podcast, We Can Do Hard Things. There's a conversation she had on there with a psychologist, and she was telling the story about when she was leaving her first husband.
Yes.
And they had 4 children or something like that, and she said to the psychologist, I can't leave him. What if he falls in a heap and can't function, and what if it's just totally destroys the family? And the psychologist said to her, you've got to understand there's no such thing as one-way liberation. And that just went boom, she said, you liberate yourself, you liberate him. And she laughs about it now because she's like, he is living his best life, and he is. He's got a new partner, and he's had a whole bunch of different relationships, but he's thriving. And she sometimes says, I look at him and think, damn, she's happy for him, but man,
it's like,
you are
really
living your
took
best
it on.
Really took it on, yeah.
There's no thing as one-way liberation. Fuck, that's so freeing, isn't
it? I know. That comment was what made me go, right, I'm doing this.
That comment makes me feel like bawling, like that release of that. And I can think of people in my life where that would be the case, and it makes me feel very sad.
Because I knew that my husband would get to the point where he'd realise that I'd liberated him. I just knew in my heart that even though he couldn't see it, after 6 months or so of living, and that's what I asked him. I said, can we just separate for 6 months? Can we just give it a go and see what happens? And it was about the 6-month mark I saw he had the realisation, I'm free. Man, this is good. And I'm not happy anymore. I'm not being told I'm constantly not good enough or doing enough. And
yeah, man.
Yeah.
And he put all this work into the house, bit ironic with the upset, but it's okay that he's there because the new him is in the new house. Now, have you got somewhere that you like living as yet? Are you still in transition?
Well, I'm still very much in transition.
Okay. Because that'll make a difference, won't it?
Oh, huge. Yeah. I mean, it's where I'm living right now. It's right opposite the Children's Hospital, old student flats. 2 years ago, when we were looking for the rental, somewhere to rent, there was when you turned up and there were 30, 40 other couples.
I remember.
Yeah.
I was so frightened for people.
Oh, we just struggled to find, and we had a dog and struggled to find somewhere. So we found this place. It probably hasn't, I don't think, it was probably built in the 60s, has maybe was renovated once in the 80s.
Okay, got it. I can
of,
feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very uninspiring. So when I'm Zooming with clients, I have the Zoom screen on in the background with a gorgeous, people say, oh, that's a beautiful living room. I'm like, it's not real, but
Thank you. We like what the graphics team did as well.
Yeah. So, but anyway, we're getting through, and I will, getting to the point now where I'll be able to find somewhere and start afresh, which will be nice, that I can feel my energies coming back because it's been a tough year. Yeah.
Yeah, no joke, man. No joke. What a year. I'm glad you're on LinkedIn because I'm getting to see your beautiful posts and the artwork attached and the quotes. And also, now you put something on LinkedIn. I like to do a twofer on here. I like to have a podcast and have a conversation about whatevs. And actually, you put a thing on LinkedIn and I contacted you because you and one of your friends or colleagues is going to help people write books.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah.
Just for the audience, this is not for me, it's for you. It's not for me, it's for you.
Yeah, so Athena Daniels is a 6 times best-selling author. She's amazing. She helped me write my book. So she was the developmental editor. She helped me self-publish and do all the things. And,
oh, wow.
And also just a beautiful human being. Taught me the power of how to write a good story. So the authenticity that I was able to bring across is thanks to her really coaching me through that process of how to write a story that's engaging and captivating. And so we want to teach that skill to other people. And so we are compiling a book anthology called Backstage Pass to Business Success. So we're pulling back the curtains on the truth and the reality of running a business because we feel there are too many people out there with false expectations.
Oh, yes.
All the coaches out there saying, do this silver bullet and get 6 figures overnight.
Oh, God.
And we just want to, for people that are serious about surviving in business, we want to just, set the record straight and give them some really helpful insights about don't make these mistakes that we've made.
Wonderful.
And if I could tell someone starting a business now, what's the one thing I wish someone had told me?
Yes.
We want to give people that kind of valuable advice. So we're inviting business owners who have been on the journey for a while to share what it's been like behind the curtains for them. Because even though I feel as business owners, we're like the swans on the lake, aren't we? We
Absolutely.
look graceful and underneath the feet of them.
Absolutely.
I might be shitting ourselves at the same time.
Absolutely. Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And that's another one of that how much do we share? Like that swan on the lake and the feet going underneath. As a small business owner, it's really curiosity making. How much can I say what's actually going on? Like,
because you don't want to be perceived as you don't know what you're doing, because how can you be a business coach if you're not doing
That's
well?
right.
Yeah.
And, I've discussed it on here because I share all sorts of things about me. Danielle had to help me, as she often does. That's why she's my emotional support, Danielle. I said, I'm telling people all my neuroses and everything else. What if they forget that I'm a good coach or speaker? And, she helped me realise when I'm doing that, I am very professional and good at it. And it doesn't mean that I can't have fears or anxieties or whatever else.
Yeah,
it's
because you're human.
Human. And it's not separate things. Actually, sometimes one leads into the other. Like me sharing at Women in Leadership that I'd been perimenopausally anxious added to the talk, not lessened, because of the style of the talk, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to literally write a book, you and her.
We're inviting other business owners to submit a chapter. She and I will also write a chapter. We're hoping to get about 15 authors all together. We're going to teach them how to write an engaging, captivating story, help them figure out what's the one thing they want their audience to learn, and then we pull all those stories together and publish it.
And how can one get involved if they want to be one of the businesses?
Yeah, well, reach out to me direct. We're about to have an information session on the 13th that I'll start promoting to just tell people what it's all about and what's involved and how they can get engaged if they're interested. And,
awesome.
And then we'll record that and put it on the landing page as well, where we'll have the promotion. So you'll see on LinkedIn that watch this space, there'll be lots of promos coming up about it.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so if they just want to reach out to me direct if they're interested.
Yeah, and wonderful.
Yeah, we want it to be a resource for the business owners to share with their clients as well, so that it becomes a useful tool for them to market their own business too.
Well, I've noticed you're very generous on LinkedIn when you'll share, like you've created toolkits and I downloaded one of them. Yeah, it's so cool when people do that, when you can get heaps of good stuff, and you haven't even used you as a coach yet. So you can see your commitment to the realness of your commitment, right? It's not just about, hey, use me as a coach. It's like, okay, I want you to get an outcome. Yeah. Here's some resources you can use.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's hard enough. So give people everything they can to educate themselves on what it takes to build a business, and then if they need help, then they'll reach out. Because you can have all the information but still not know how to implement it.
I heard a thing once not that long ago, and it said give all your best stuff away for free, and it actually made me feel frightened. Speaking of that lack feeling, like I can't give all the best stuff away for free, but it's exactly what you said. You can give every best idea away for free, but the support and implementation, most people will still need the help to do that.
That's right.
It's good on two fronts. You can be very generous and still get a really great client base as well. So there's two different books I want to write, and also I'll talk to you about being one of your contributors to that book.
Exciting.
So the one book I want to write is really, it comes out of an enormous frustration that I've had around how businesses don't communicate with their staff. I'm not sure if I'm the one to write it. I'm not sure if I'm going to also ask for contributors, but basically what I want to do is I want to have something that the most senior people in a business can read about what it's like when they leave their staff in limbo, what it's like when they announce redundancies but not attaching dates to it, when they give people project roles.
What a great book.
Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate your feedback.
Love that, because that's like what we're doing, but for workplace culture and engagement, isn't it? It's like pulling the curtains back on, do you realise the impacts of these decisions that you're making up here and what's actually...
what it's like for the humans.
Yeah, and the ones that actually care will read that. There's always going to be the leaders that don't actually care what the impacts are on the people.
Well, that's right. That's what Danielle and I were talking about, because she was saying the people that most need to go to the training don't go.
Yeah.
She said she's got a few people that if we did the book, they'd be getting it for Christmas. We've also come up with some beautiful titles. My one started out as Corporations of the C Word. That was a bit strong. One fellow loved it. Danielle said, Stop being an arsehole. How not to be an arsehole.
Yes. We need more books like that.
How not to be an arsehole. We know that from Mark Manson, Subtle Art of Not Giving an F, swearing works. I feel like it's a bit tired now, but yeah. And then we had, I had CEOs for Humanity. That was one of my, but isn't that, what's the thing for humanity? Something for humanity. I think it's like an environmental...
Yeah, and it almost sounds too altruistic that you wouldn't catch the interest of those that aren't altruistic.
So that's right, we have to trick them. So I have to trick them, right? So I did a thing years and years ago when I was single, and I was doing a lot of Landmark, and I did this night, and I called it Couples Can't Come. It was a singles night.
Brilliant.
Every couple I knew. Can we come? Of course you can't. Look at the title. And it made all the single people feel very cool. They were allowed to come, all the couples weren't. So it's like couples can't come. It's using language like, it's like this is stupid and it wouldn't be it, but it's like, do you want to make the most money for your company? You know, how to make the most money for your company.
Yeah.
And then it's all about
Everything
how you communicate.
you wish your staff would actually tell you. It's that kind of thing, isn't it? It's like all the things your staff want to tell you but can't because...
Yes, you're onto something. It's something like the anonymous staff or when they used to do the Secret Boss reality show and the CEO would go into the company, it's something like that. Yes, thank you. So
it's got to be intriguing that they want to know that information because it's going to help them somehow.
What you think you know but you don't. What your staff aren't telling you.
There, I like that.
What your staff aren't telling you. Danielle, make a note, even though it's literally on recording. You can tell I really like having staff. Danielle's not literally my staff, but one time I got to say to Andy, can I have the room? Do you know how they do that in TV shows? The powerful person says. So we were with a client and we were both talking to people, but he had been the second one to come in and I had to keep talking to my client and I said, excuse me, Andy, can we have the room? And I was like, yes, they say that in White House shows and when the president says, can we have the room?
Oh, that must have felt good.
Really good. I've got a need for power. It's very obvious. At least I have no ego, Kate. Okay, that's one book. That comes out of frustration and fury, and I think there's a way to potentially collaborate. If you think of the people I've named already who've been on here, and then you look at my lists of guests, and then you think of other people you or I would know who would have such insight... Exciting. That one is more I need to do it so I feel like I've said what needs to be said and I can stop being so upset about it.
Yes, because at the moment I'm doing mine as well,
At the moment I just run around furious and powerless, going, this sucks.
Yeah.
Someone tell someone. And then I'm like, right, book might be one way of doing it.
Yeah, a healthy way of getting that out.
Hopefully,
and
healthy and
impact
useful.
at the same time.
Healthy and useful. My chapter will, fuck you, that'll be the start of my chapter. Like, okay, dial that whole thing back. Everyone helps me see the other side, Kate. Like I say stuff like that and then people go, well, they're dealing with a lot. And I go, oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. There's another side to this story. The other book I want to write, I did some of the William Whitecloud work that Danielle put me onto and there's a mob over in Queensland called True North who do his kind of work. Basically, like Landmark, what life do you want to have? How can you create it? Wonderful. We do a thing in there called the Land of Plenty and you basically visualise. And in the Land of Plenty there was a book which has come up for me a lot of times over the years, but it came up like sparkling and like shining, like do this, do this, do this. I think it is non-fiction. I think it is different parts of my life and I think I would really love to have it exist. 2 bits of it, if it was the kind of book I think it'll be, 2 bits exist because I already wrote You're Taking My Grandchild Where when we went to South America when Sam was 20 months and I've already written Choosing to Have Sam because of what it was like being a non-clucky.
Have you published these?
No.
Oh, okay.
I have one. Just smile at Grayson. Thanks, Grayson. I have one snapfish copy of You're Taking My Grandchild Where, so like a big wedding album, big pictures, paid for one copy when they were 50% off and created it and it was like $100.
Wow.
And I've got one at home. And then the other one for Sam I haven't written yet, but my girlfriend over east who's a midwife, she and I were going to write a book that included mine and hers. She's an expert. And we were going to call Meet Me in the Middle and it had a little baby on the front with a T-shirt saying Meet Me in the Middle or a onesie and our story was going to be about the most medical way of having a baby like I did or the most natural way and what both parties could do to meet me in the middle. I think that one would be awesome.
That's really a different topic.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. But because my side of having Sam was really skewed, I wanted all the hospital support. I wanted it least natural as possible. Learned a bit since then, but that wasn't useful to me back then. It's too late. And then she had a tragedy where someone had taken the other approach. Yeah. So we were like, okay, where can we get all of her scientific info, the latest,
That's brilliant. That would be a really helpful book
I
for
think so.
first-time mums, yeah.
There's two characters. One's very close to me, and then there's another one who's not like me, is almost the opposite. And we tell their story as kind of a fiction story, intertwine the medicine, and then at the end of the book they both meet in a hospital, and it's got a whole... But
that would be a brilliant read.
Thank you, yeah.
I would love to read that if I was about to give birth.
I know. Or newly pregnant and wondering what's right.
Yeah, so you can make the right... Yeah, you wouldn't want to read that book just before you
go, I don't know what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
But, I think with her expertise, there would be... And because she's a science background, but she's a yoga teacher, she's got the whole world. And because I lived through being a fearful person around birth and the actions I took because of that, and then I have friends that have done things very opposite way, I think it could be super useful.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. But she and I have to coordinate on that, and we live on opposite sides of the country.
You can do that.
I know. Maybe I'll get you to coach me on it.
Yeah, Athena.
Maybe I'll get you to coach us on it.
Well, Athena's the book coach. She'd be all over
there you go.
Yeah, she's such a whiz when it comes to writing and publishing books and knowing how to pull it together.
Okay,
yeah.
All right. Good.
Yeah.
Athena, good. Let me have a look at my notes. I have notes. You did a TED Talk as well?
I did, on Do What Makes You Come Alive.
How cool. Where was that? Because I couldn't recognise where you were.
Yeah, that's so funny how TED works. It's all smoke and mirrors. I don't really know exactly how it works, but you have the option now post-COVID of doing it remotely or on a stage.
Yeah.
And I had what's the word, synchronicity?
Yeah.
Came across a girl through networking who did the remote version.
Yeah.
And she said, I can get you a gig. I've got these 3 universities or that might sponsor you. I said, okay. She said, so submit your talk and your topic and I'll see if anyone's interested in sponsoring you. So she came back to me a few weeks later and said, Al Mansour Park in California wants to sponsor you. I was like, great. So am I going to California?
Yeah.
She's like, no, you just record here in Perth. I'm like, what? So...
and then did they put the screen at the back?
They provided their logo and everything and the TEDx, but it's hilarious because I had to go to IKEA and get one of the big red mats, red dot. It's very funny, but they give you like 6 pages of specifications on how the talk needs to be recorded and from which angles and
wow.
So it's but at the same time, so it's very specified. You must have a rug this big and it's just funny that IKEA is the place that sells these rugs globally.
Everyone's like, I know where I'm getting my rug.
Got the IKEA rug. And, and then you have to either use a green screen or a digital screen, which is what my videographer chose because he didn't want the green screen's a bit funny.
Yeah, really hard around your hairline, I think, the green screen.
Yeah, so we chose the digital screen and we just went to West Perth and so that's how it works.
How cool, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, part of me would like to have done it on a stage.
Yeah.
Because I love, then you can feed off the audience and so on. But it's all about who you know in the TEDx work and who can get you on. It's very who knows who. And
must be.
She didn't know anyone that could get me on local stages. So it's, I still don't know how it all works. But it's on the TEDx website.
Yeah. And it's a great talk.
Oh, thank you.
I really liked it. It was super useful. And if I had Anna Black on here, who's a career consultant, where we're talking about when people want to do something different. And actually, she helped me understand that people are much more calm than me, and they're just like, I wonder what else I could do. Because I said to her, I thought they're coming in, in rags, going, help me, because they were real like you and I. I can't do this, right? But of course, there's all secret people who are wanting to do their dream, even if they're not sure what their dream is, who want to live. I think women of roughly our age are really more and more wanting to express their love and joy and wisdom and, the times now, man, like it's awesome. And it doesn't need to be either for people our age. It can be for older people, younger people. Sometimes when I talk, the young people like me the best. And they'll come and go, that was very cool. And I always feel really special because they're very young.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, that's awesome because I'm very uncool. All my references are old. But yeah, they're really nice. I actually think the reason young people sometimes like me is that authenticity piece because they so don't like bullshit and they've been fed so much of it.
Yeah. And it's rare to hear an adult talking authentically like that.
I know.
Yeah.
These students I was telling you about, I said, what do people think of you? And then I said, well, what do you think of adults? And I said, I'm not going to let you answer, but if I was you, I'd think this, this and this. And they're kind of nodding like, yeah, you guys suck. And I was like, we really do. I'm really sorry. You know, like, I'm really sorry. Look what we've given you, you know?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah. And now we can't even afford to live.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
Crazy.
yes, let's stop criticising the young people, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they're probably going to save us.
They
Save
are.
us all.
They are going to save us all. And the part of the way they're going to save us is with their realness and their love and their lack of BS.
And lack of being boxed into. They've got options now, and they're able to look beyond the box and see the options. And,
and think, what else do I want to do? And I'm actually worth something. You know, people hate that about them. Oh, the self-esteem, Kate, it's ludicrous. Horrendous, hard to deal with, you know?
Yeah, when you don't have any self, it's very triggering.
Very triggering. It's absolutely, you nailed it in one. I think that's a very good point to wrap it up. But before we do, what have we not talked about that you would have liked to? Can we put enough in the show notes if people would like to get in touch? So they can get in touch about the book, they can get in touch about working with you.
If anyone's out there starting or growing a business and needs some guidance, you know, that's what I do, is help people find their way. So they can find me at katedejong.com. And, yeah, I've got my free resources on there, like you said, which I offer for free just to help people find their way. And, yeah, I think we've pretty much covered everything I wanted to. I mean, I said to you I'd love to just talk about being authentic because, yeah, what does it actually mean? I think it's just living in alignment with your truth. And all of us, like you say, have different thresholds for how much discomfort we can tolerate. And it's just figuring out what that is for yourself and what you're willing to tolerate and what you're not willing to tolerate. And then, have the courage to do what makes you come alive is ultimately what I think we need more people doing.
The poem I wrote on your LinkedIn post about, no one told me there'd be pain here too.
Yes.
And actually,
I loved that.
Yeah, that was channeled, man. Like, that did not come out of my
powerful.
head. Thank you.
I screenshotted it and it's
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm also thinking of becoming a songwriter. I saw Crowded House. So I like to... I really enjoy the artistry.
Such a good sentence, though. No one told me there would be pain here too.
Yeah, because, but it's got such a big but, because it is probably at times more painful, more confusing, more fear-making, more difficult to manage, particularly with this perimenopause anxiety in the mix. And it's not, comfort's not even the right word. Satisfaction's not the right word. What did you say? Coming alive. The feeling like I check in all the time.
I'm living fully.
I'm living fully. Yes, I'm living fully.
Even though in all extremes of the emotions, everything, but I'm fully in it.
I'm fully in it, and when I'm fully in it, my whole heart and soul. It's like I really want to get the right kind of language for what it feels like for me. It is fully. It's alive. It's heart-led.
Raw.
It's true.
True.
It's true.
It's true.
It's true. That's the feeling, right? And the solidity and comfort's not the right word, the solidity of that trueness, the satisfaction, the fulfillment, the groundedness.
Actually, can I read out just the quote that I start with in my book? It's my quote, but it says, your truth is personal. It's different to everyone else's. No one else can tell you what yours is because it's uniquely yours. Only you know it and only you can feel it.
Hey, perfect.
Yeah.
That's the perfect ending. Let's wrap it up. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Real delight.
So delightful talking with you.
Yeah, I'm super excited with you.
Me too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.